is time for another album review. That's right, we're back once again in the review seat, and for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Tennessee.
Look how excited he is, honestly. Like he can't wait. He's like bouncing in his chair. Duncan, I found the most disgustingly heavy thing that I could this month. Here, listen.
Tennessee grind sextet Knoll. The band's new album Metempiric will be released on June 24th. So this is album number 2 from Knoll, which follows up their 2021 debut, Interstice, which is like...
It's grind. It's like that. Time means nothing in the world of grindcore bands. It really doesn't. Like it's weird. Like you could be like Pig Destroyer and release one album every like 20 years, or like these guys and do one a year.
Yeah, true that. What really excited me though, Duncan.
Oh, tell me what really excited Dave.
Is the album, the recording of the album took place with Andy Nelson at Bricktop Recordings in Chicago. Tick. The album was then mixed by Kurt Ballou.
Of course.
Tick.
Of course.
Then, just, if that wasn't enough, we'll finish it off with a little mastering job from Brad Boatwright.
Yeah, we love you, Brad.
Tick. Oh my God. Artwork's handled by Ethan McCarthy on the album. So before I'd even hit play, I was kind of like, oh guys, what are you doing here? What are you doing to me here?
Some people think it's the Father, Son and the Holy Ghost, but it turns out that's not the Holy Trinity.
No, not at all. Although writing for their second album, even before the first had been released, it started before the first album had been released, the intervening months allowed room for the songs to bloom and mutate. Knoll cite their live experiences as having an impact on their own performances, increasing their confidence and kicking their ambition up another notch. Lyrically, the themes on the record are as complex and claustrophobic as before. 13 songs in the album are an abstraction of consciousness and time, using metaphor to delve deeper into the human condition. Along the way, they cover class warfare and human atrocities through a tangle of words that encapsulate an inescapable sense of existential dread. Okay, so had you heard Knoll before?
No.
Oh yes, fucking awesome. Virgin Knoll. Love it.
Let's hit play on this and then shat my pants.
Oh, amazing. I'd heard the previous album, Interstice from 2021, and it's a fairly relentless affair. It didn't really let up at all. A very tight, punishing sounding album that actually, like for a debut, was very well put together. Didn't really sound like a band cutting their teeth, trying to find their sound, to be honest. Yeah. So yeah, definitely keen to hear this one. Metempiric still has that relentlessness. That has not gone away at all. It's still just an absolute barrage of riffs and filth. It's packed with just ferocious grindcore. It constantly twists and contorts the whole way through.
Yeah, the time changing between like blast intensity to just like slow, like some of the slow riffs on this. I know like people assume blast beats and all the rest heaviness. No. The slower bits on this album are the heaviest dank thing you've ever heard, honestly.
I mean, we've said grindcore, but there's lots of other little things going on here. They do kind of like start to lean into bits of death metal. There's bits that are really kind of techy. There's that kind of like Deathgrind. There's kind of Blackened sections.
Come on.
What?
There is a brass section.
Yeah, I'll get to that.
Which I fell at my chair when that kicked in. I was like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah, I think like listening to the two albums they've released, I think it's possible this album could be even nastier sounding than their debut. And I didn't think that was particularly possible, to be honest. But I think it's down to a couple of things, I think, on this album. I think the first thing is the control that they have on the tracks of this album. I feel like they have a much better handle on when to kind of pull it back and just kind of rein it in just a little bit, and then when they just want to kind of unleash that fury. I think there were occasions on the debut where it just felt like they were just going at it as hard and as fast as they could. And as vicious as that sounded, for me, some of the tracks felt maybe a little bit forgettable, or like, you know, we're kind of merging into one. Here, I feel like they've constructed the songs in a way that there are more kind of memorable parts on this album. I think you have to do that with an album of this style, because there are no vocal hooks, there are no catchy melodic passages. So those riffs and those arrangements need to have the kind of hooks to kind of pull you in. And I definitely got that from this album. Tracks like Fell Plume or Marred Alb have those moments where the riffs take a dive into something more kind of groove laden, something really dissonant, or even when they push into a more kind of like Blackened territory as well, which they do a bit more of on this release, which I really enjoyed. We've also, the elephant in the room is there's brass on this album.
It works. It fucking works. It shouldn't work. It shouldn't. It should be one step too far. It should be like what you pack in everything and the kitchen sink. It shouldn't work. Totally fucking works.
It does.
It gave me listener whiplash when it kicked in. Because it's that way where I was like, it came in and I was like, is that an effect or something? I was like, no, that's a brass section. And it's not just for that. It does come back. It's a repeated motif, which I think, once again, that to me shows a bit of cleverness, a bit of confidence as well, that they're aware that it does fit within the sound. It could easily be one step too far, and it isn't.
And again, it's another element that kind of breaks up the intensity for a second as well. As I said, grindcore, you know, it has this tendency to feel like a kind of just constant wall of noise at times, but adding little things like that really kind of prevent it from feeling as relentless. They do, like on the first album, they include some like kind of like interlude type tracks, which are usually just kind of ambience or kind of noise of some
industrial type of noise. Which I know these sorts of albums never tend to be long in length. Grindcore, by its nature, tends to be lots of songs, but when you contextualize them in length, they're never all that long. I'm fine with that.
Me too.
Because like otherwise, if you remove those, one, you get a shorter album, which I mean some people would be fine with. But I think you need those moments to, in some level, process what you've just listened to before the next onslaught comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. I found they were perfect little kind of breather moments. Where you're just like let's reset, and then, you know, they hit you with another track and just absolutely pummel you. And pummel you, they absolutely do. Like, some of the riffs on this album.
Dude, there is a breakdown section of Troth to the Atom, which is just so fucking heavy. It is so heavy. And like I looked with pure disgust upon my MP3 playing device. Just like, there's no need for this. No, fucking Saturday morning.
It's just laden with just savage riffs. The main riff on Whelm, which is track 12, I think.
Yes, that's right.
It's just so fucking heavy. Like, it's one of the kind of slower riffs on the album, and it doesn't really change much throughout the track, but it's so discordant and chuggy with these almost like kind of black metal high-end screams over the top. It's just...
we're going to talk about the vocals in a minute here, but you know what's brilliant about, like, you were talking about, like, the way they've constructed the album, is that song has a specific pace about it and a reservedness about that pace that when you go into Tome, which is the final track, which is friggin' 8+ minutes long, and I say 8+ minutes long, 4 minutes of that is the band winding out those atmospherics towards the end. But that track kicks off like a swift boot in the balls. And had Whelm been more ferocious in its pacing and more ferocious in its execution that way. I don't think Tome stands up as well. I think that like they're weirdly, as heavy as that is and controlled as it is, it somehow allows Tome to be the length it is.
Yeah.
And be executed the way it is, which once again to me is just really smart placement on the album.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really like the fact that it's, you know, that's not constantly intense as well. Like that whole kind of ambient, kind of melodic part at the end was really cool. And there are a few tracks on this album where there's a little bit more breathing room. It's not, you know, it's not too expansive throughout the album, but there's moments where they kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit, you know, and they kind of cut back on the grind, and they'll go maybe more kind of sludge or kind of doom laden. You hear elements of that on Of Troth to Atom, and I think that really works as well. Again, just that little kind of variance in speed and style, I think really works. It just gives you a bit more kind of space in between. And actually, for me, it kind of helped differentiate the tracks a little bit more as well. We mentioned it at the start. I'm going to come back to the end here. Production on this is just a fucking masterclass. Just, it's raw. It's got absolute visceral power. It's quite erosive sounding, but it doesn't sound like lo-fi or undercooked. Like it's still got a little bit of polish to it. Not like it's not polished, but you know, it sounds,
make out everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I mean, it'd be very easy to lose some of that because there's so much stuff happening. It'd be very easy to do that, but they paid the right people.
Yes, they did. Absolutely did. And it helps that you can hear these guys are absolutely killer musicians. So it sounds ultra tight and locked in. But it's not like like technical death metal, for example, where everything's super clinical. It still feels very kind of flowy and very kind of natural as well. As grindcore albums go, this was really good. I really enjoyed this one. I'm a big fan of grindcore in general, so yeah, this was right up my street. How was your first Knoll experience?
I mean, it's everything you said. It's so punishing. It's like so. I can take or leave grindcore. There are certain bands in the genre that, you know, over time, like we mentioned Pig Destroyer before. I fucking love Pig Destroyer.
Yeah.
But I love Pig Destroyer because they're a band who genuinely understand the use of menacing atmospherics.
Oh yeah.
And the quieter moments add to the ferocity. Which is kind of why I enjoyed the Knoll listen as much as I did, because they've got that influence in there, but they've got that technique down par. Like just when I was starting to get a bit exhausted, an interlude track kicked in, and it always landed exactly the right bit for me. Just where that fatigue was starting to hit in, they gave me something, or they slowed down the following track, or they added an additional element, which I thought was really good. Vocally, this is about as black metal as you can get, but still audible, still, you know, really well recorded, really well recorded. But his vocal tone is on a higher screech range, which just sounds sore. And it's technique. I mean, he's not fucking his vocal cords out at all. That's all technique. And like some people think that shit's easy. It really isn't. To sustain that and the pace that he's doing his vocals at as well, plus being able to breathe and enunciate, is so. And that to me is like, that's one of those things that's very easy to overlook, which is why I said I was going to swing back to it. And it just adds like it's a level of chaos for sure, but the versatility of it works over those kind of really slower, disgusting, discordant parts, as well as the kind of ferocious blast beat laden kind of riffs and work as well. So all works in together. You mentioned before, production is on point, really good. Once again, sounds tailored to the band. Just I appreciate that sort of thing where I can still make out what the drummer's doing, what the guitarists are playing, and then, oh, by the way, I can hear the bass player and the vocalist. We're doing a good job here. The inclusion of just all the other stuff in terms of the kind of atmospherics and the instrumentation and the interludes, as well as the brass work, which, I mean, once again, great. Brass instruments on this. Just kind of like to be on album number 2, come out 1 year after album number 1,
Yeah.
and already sounds so confident to be adding those elements in and delivering an album which is as tightly crafted as this is not easy to do. Grindcore bands can be several albums in before they start to realise that, you know, maybe they're doing too much in one direction or they need to let up here or whatever, and they've already kind of got a good mastery of this. I don't think this is the last we're going to hear of those more experimental ideas coming in as well, because like everything they do here works. There wasn't one element where I was like, that's one step too far, or kind of feel like we've trodden over this ground. It's a very interesting listen. It is a very intense listen, and I think that's this caveat that I put there is not the consummate grindcore listener like you are. It's something that I gravitate to every now and again. I'll pick up an album, shove it on when I'm, you know, just fucking looking for something which is essentially condensed cold brew coffee up the nose. And that's grindcore. You know, like, I can appreciate everything that it, you know, is doing here and more, and they're young in their career to be doing it. I think that's the exciting thing about it. They're on the right track. Certainly they've got something in there. They're surrounding themselves with the right people. Like, this group behind them, you know, recording, mastering and producing the album are about as good as you get in terms of this world of music. This is like, you're doing everything right there. So the fact that they've got all that in the bag as well, I expect big things. I genuinely do. When I say big things, they're not going to headline download, but you know what I mean. I expect this is a band that are going to be on the go for a while, and hopefully they get over here. I can say hand on heart, I've never seen a grindcore band. That's a lie. I've seen Napalm Death. I've never seen a modern grindcore band live before, and they say a lot of their experiences that, you know, influenced this album comes from that live scene. This band would be terrifying to see live. I don't know, it's fucking terrifying, especially because there's 6 of them.
Three guitarists.
If you're excited about this world of music and these guys aren't on your radar yet, be prepared to clear off a little bit of space on your favourite shelf and slide this album in. It's really fucking good, man.
Okay, ratings for this new one from Knoll. As I said, I've been a grindcore fan for a while, a long while. So when I hear something that's as tight and as visceral as this, and how well it's been executed, I can't help but be impressed. Like, the musicianship is insane. The album is stacked with riffs that will just remove the enamel from your teeth, and it's produced like perfectly for this band's sound, absolutely perfectly. I think Knoll have definitely moved up a notch on this one. The debut is probably about a 3.5 for me. I think this has moved up a whole point, definitely. Like, you can hear the small changes, the involvement they made. This is a 4.5 from me. I love what these guys are doing. What are you thinking for yourself?
Well, this will show you how much I've enjoyed it, because bands like this tend to get the middle of the road mark. A 3. This is a 4 for me. I think this is really. It's not my particular brand of Java. You know what I mean? It's not the stuff that I would like I said before, organically lift up. But listening to it, it's hard to deny that these guys are fucking great. Very, very, very talented. The work on this album is just so well put together, and it's exciting to listen to. That was the thing. Like, when it finished, I'm not the sort of guy that will just like spin an album like this again, but it finished and I was like, I want to go back and listen to this again and just like feel that it's the energy pulsating through it. And when they hit those heavy, slower parts, like I said before, you can have all the fastness and all the savagery you want in the world, but if you get a discordant, slow groove bit kicking in, it's more punishing than anything else. Any fucking detuned shit that you want to listen to, when those bits hitting, it is just, you can just feel your skin being peeled off your face. So yeah, it's a 4 out of 5 for me.
Nice. So Knoll and Metempiric released on June 24th. Check them out, facebook.com/Knoll VHS. They've also got the album up on Bandcamp, so you can check it out as well. That is the review. Let us know what you think. There's been a couple of singles released so far. Have a listen to those. I think most of the singles are fairly short. They're like 2.5 minutes or something like that. And the tracks don't go on for that long, apart from the right at the end. But let us know. Let us know what you think. Have a listen to singles. Have a listen to the album when it drops, and let us know your thoughts.